Ryan was a few feet away, his phone ready to capture everything. We waited until the old man got closer. I jumped out for a perfect moment, letting out a guttural growl, hoping to scare the life out of him. He didn't flinch. He just stood there staring at me, his lips curling into a wide, unnatural grin. His eyes, empty yet focused, locked onto mine. I
This
felt
is a
something
sleep
cold
stream, though.
roll down my spine. This wasn't the reaction I expected. I stepped back instinctively, feeling a strange pressure in my chest. That smile didn't break. He didn't speak. He didn't scream. He just started walking towards me. I wasn't afraid at first. It was just an old man, but something about him made me uneasy. I took another step back. He matched it with a step forward. My breathing grew shallow. Then suddenly, he stopped following me. Instead, he turned sharply and walked towards the bushes, towards Ryan. Ryan had always been the braver one. He thought it was just some weird old guy playing along with our prank. Hey man, relax. It's just a joke. The man didn't slow down. Ryan puffed out his chest, trying to act tough. You're not scaring anyone, dude. Just go home. The man reached into his coat and pulled out a wooden club, the kind you'd see in a medieval movie. Ryan barely had time to react before the first hit landed. The sound it made was sickening, like a heavy sack of meat hitting bacon. Ryan dropped his phone. His body crumpled, but he wasn't out yet. He tried to crawl, but the man brought the club down again and again. I watched it frozen. My mind refused to accept what I was seeing. I wanted to move, to scream, to help, but my body wouldn't listen. Man, I was freaking out.
I'm
This was
sleeping,
no
though.
threat going sideways. It was raw, brutal
It's
reality.
late here.
I kept thinking, what the hell is happening? Then the old man turned his head slowly, that grin still stretched across his face. And then, for the first time, he moved fast. The sudden burst of speed made my heart slam into my chest. I couldn't believe that this old guy, who had been standing there with that insane smile, could actually be that quick. I ran. The park was suddenly too big, the pathways too long. My legs burned, but I didn't dare slow down. I could hear him behind me. He wasn't sprinting, but he was keeping up all the same. I cut through the trees, jumped over benches, and pushed past anyone in my way. My apartment wasn't far. If I could just make it there and lock the door, I'd be safe. But man, every step felt like a huge mistake. I risked a glance back. He was still there, moving in a weird, almost robotic way. The flickering streetlights made the scene even more surreal. My building loomed ahead, and I sprinted inside, slammed the door shut, and bolted up the stairs. I couldn't believe this was happening. It felt like a messed up reality show with no punchline. I slammed my hand against the door, wishing it would hold him off. Deep down, I knew it wouldn't last. The whole thing was spiraling out of control, and every creak in the building made my skin crawl. I dared to look down the stairwell. He was standing there, standing at the bottom, looking up at me, smiling. That sight hit me
Oh, I
like a
forgot I
ton of
need to
bricks.
plug you guys in.
I froze, my mind racing with pure panic. I barely made it inside my apartment before he reached the door. The pounding started immediately. It was measured, calculated. He wasn't trying to break in. He was making sure I knew he was there. Neighbors began coming out, yelling and
Why
asking
can't I
what was
find
going
the
on.
plug-in?
Someone even called the cops. But the man didn't care. He just kept knocking harder, faster. I backed away, my chest heaving. My phone was dead. My only connection to Ryan was.
Oops.
He was making
Hi
sure I
guys,
knew
this
he
is
was
a
there.
this is a sleep
Neighbors
stream,
began
so
coming
if you
out,
don't like it,
yelling
you
and
can leave.
asking what was going on. Someone even called the cops. But the man didn't care. He just kept knocking harder, faster. I backed away, chest heaving. My phone was dead. My only connection to Ryan was gone. Inside the apartment, everything felt off. I could hear my own ragged breathing echoing in the empty hallways. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do next, but all I could think about was Ryan and that brutal violence I had just witnessed. I paced around, checking every door and window, expecting him to burst in at any moment. The silence after the knocking stopped was almost worse than the noise, like a loaded gun waiting to go off. I felt trapped, like the walls were closing in. Every second stretched out, filled with dread and uncertainty. I even tried calling someone, but my phone was useless, leaving me alone with my terror. I pressed myself against the wall, aware of every creak and whisper in the building. The tension was unbearable. Every little sound made me jump, and my heart felt like it was stuck in my throat. This wasn't just a prank gone wrong. It was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The fear was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. And I just sat there paralyzed, waiting for the next awful moment. The police arrived a few minutes later. They found Ryan in the park, just lying there. He was dead before I even ran. They checked the security footage. The cameras showed everything. Our prank, the old man watching us from the darkness before we even noticed him, before we even picked him as our target. He had been there the whole time, waiting. One of the officers took me to the station, asking me the same questions over and over again. I told them everything. How he chose him randomly, how he didn't react, how he killed Ryan like it meant nothing. They searched the city. No one matching his description was found. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep for days. The police never found him. No fingerprints, no ID, nothing. He just disappeared. Ryan's funeral was quiet. His family was devastated. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. What could I even say? I moved out of my apartment. I stopped going outside at night. Every time I hear footsteps behind me, I freeze. Every time I see a stranger smiling for no reason, my heart stops and I just want to cry. Driving at night was never something I enjoyed. The road seemed endless, the monotony unbearable, and the fatigue was starting to weigh heavily on my eyelids. My girlfriend Lauren sat beside me, half asleep. We had decided to take a vacation at the beach, but the drive was long and exhaustion was getting the best of us. The lights of a motel by the side of the road were a relief. It wasn't a luxurious place, but at least we could sleep for a few hours before continuing. Lauren stretched and nodded when I told her we'd stay the night. I took the exit and parked in front of the reception. Upon entering, a thin man greeted us. His pale skin and tense smile made me uncomfortable right away. His movements were clumsy, as if he wasn't used to dealing with people. He handed us the key with bony hands and watched as we walked to our room. I didn't want to say anything to worry Lauren, but something about that guy unsettled me. I brushed it off. We just needed to rest. The room was small but clean. Lauren and I lay on the bed without much thought. It didn't take long for us to start kissing passionately. In the middle of everything, I slid my hands under her blouse, but just as I was about to lift it, something stopped me. It was a mechanical noise, but unmistakable. I froze. Lauren looked at me, confused. I heard it too. I thought it was my imagination. It wasn't. I worked in an electronics store. That sound was familiar. I got up from the bed and started searching the room, my heart pounding. I checked every corner, behind the television, inside the closet. When I crouched to look under the table, I saw it. A small hidden camera, aimed directly at the bed. Rage surged through me. I yanked it out and smashed it against the floor. How many more do you have? Lauren covered her mouth with her hands. She tried to calm me, suggesting that maybe the camera had been there for a long time. No. The sound we heard was the lens zooming in. We were being watched at that very moment. Without thinking twice, I stormed out of the room, heading for the reception. My pulse was racing, my hands clenched into fists. As I approached the front desk, my breathing was ragged, the adrenaline already coursing through my body. I reached out and slammed my palm on the counter, expecting an immediate reaction. The desk was empty. Not a sound. The eerie silence was suffocating. I rang the service bell several times, the sharp chime echoing through the small lobby, but no one came. I wasn't going to wait. I stepped back behind the desk, looking for a back office. There was a slightly ajar door leading to the employees' quarters. My gut twisted as I pushed it open and stepped inside. Inside the room, the air was thick with dust, the space barely furnished. There was a desk, a couple of chairs, and an old television glowing in the dim light. My stomach dropped when I saw what was on the screen. It was our room. Lauren was curled up in the corner, hugging herself, her face frozen in terror. Standing near her was the thin man, holding a knife and grinning directly at the camera, as if he were part of some twisted show. For a second, my mind went blank. The panic hit me like a freight train. I turned on my heel and ran back to our room, my heart pounding like a war drum. The door wouldn't open. I threw my shoulder against, and again, the wood groaned under the pressure, but it held firm. My breath was ragged. Every second stretched into eternity. One more slam. The frame cracked, and with a final burst of strength, I forced the door open. The moment I stepped inside, my stomach twisted at the sight before me. The knife was on the floor. Instead, the man was now holding a gun, pressing it against Lauren's head. Move and she dies. I froze in place, my fists clenched, but I knew I couldn't react recklessly. You're going to do exactly what I say, starting with stripping down to your underwear. At first, I didn't process his words, but the barrel of the gun against Lauren's temple made it painfully clear. I hesitated for only a moment before tremblingly removing my clothes. When I was left in nothing but my boxers, he took off his shoes and took a step closer. Lick my feet. I didn't respond. Lauren's eyes were filled with terror. Do it. I swallowed hard, my entire body shaking. My face was burning with humiliation, but I bent down. His bony foot pressed against my face, his skin cold and dry. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to obey. He let out a quiet chuckle, pushing my head harder against his foot, relishing in the moment. My humiliation only seemed to excite him more. His laughter was sharp, cutting through the tense silence. I could feel the weight of his stare, his sick enjoyment of the situation. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to endure it. Every second felt like an eternity. Every breath a reminder of how powerless I was at that moment. As he reveled in my humiliation, Lauren did the unthinkable. With a swift movement, she bit down on his hand with all her strength. The man let out a pained scream, momentarily releasing his grip on the gun. Without hesitation, I lunged at him. We crashed onto the floor. I landed a punch on his face, but he fought back with desperation. My hands reached for the gun, but he was faster. He lifted it and fired. A sharp pain shot through my shoulder. The impact nearly made me collapse, but I forced myself to keep moving. We couldn't stay there. I grabbed Lauren's wrist and bolted toward the door. The sound of another gunshot rang through the air, deafening me. But we kept running. Reaching the car felt like an eternity. Every second stretching into unbearable tension. My body screamed in pain, my shoulder burning from the bullet wound, but I pushed through it. Lauren yanked the passenger door open and scrambled inside. I threw myself into the driver's seat, my hands fumbling with the keys. The moment the engine roared to life, I slammed my foot on the gas. As we sped away, I looked into the rearview mirror. The man was standing in the motel doorway, watching us. He raised the gun again, but we were already disappearing down the road. My hands trembled on the wheel. My mind raced trying to process everything. I picked up my phone and dialed the police. The line was dead. It took days to gather information. The owner of the motel was a man named Richard Holloway, with multiple harassment allegations and reports of missing persons in his history, but they never caught him. When the police arrived, the motel was empty. There were no cameras, no trace of the man. The place looked abandoned, as if no one had been there for years. Lauren and I stopped talking about it. We tried to move on, but the nights were never the same again. Even now, the sound of a camera lens adjusting still makes me shiver. I am Jack, an urban explorer, and that day my team and I entered an old abandoned school known for its strange past. We came prepared with cameras and recorders, expecting to find evidence of unexplained events rather than wild legends. The building's reputation for odd sounds and unexplained activity was our only lead. The structure showed its age in every detail: cracked walls, peeling paint, and deserted halls. There was nothing dramatic about its appearance, just a rundown building left to decay. I kept my focus on the mission and nothing more. Our crew consisted of Alex, Mark, and David. We split up to cover more ground, each determined to record anything that might explain the rumors. We were all professionals, relying on facts and evidence rather than wild assumptions. The silence of the empty corridors was only broken by our measured footsteps. Every sound was noted, every room scanned, all in a cold, matter-of-fact manner. There was no room for theatrics in our investigation. In the main hall, we picked up distinct sounds, footsteps, and voices that resembled those of children at play. The noises were clear on our recorders, even if no children were visible. We noted every detail, aware that even a small discrepancy could be important. The voices were not shrill or menacing. They were calm and oddly natural. We moved from room to room, comparing the recorded sounds with the empty spaces around us. The recording showed evidence of activity that no living child should be able to produce in an abandoned building. We made our way through classrooms filled with oval desks and chalkboards where echoes of laughter mingled with our own footsteps. Every room seemed to hide a secret, though nothing appeared overtly dangerous at first. Our approach remained clinical and focused solely on evidence. It was clear that the building held traces of past life, but there was no sign of immediate threat. The environment was unassuming, except for the inexplicable sounds that hinted at something beyond the ordinary. It was at that moment that we saw what we never thought we would see in life. They were children, but at the same time, they were not. Those children were not alive. They were ghosts. Their figures disappeared and appeared every second. It was like a badly filmed movie. Our team wanted to run immediately, but I stopped. I immediately realized that there was no reason to be afraid. They were just kids. The atmosphere felt friendly, and I didn't sense a hint of evil in those kids. They were just acting like they did when they were alive. They moved through the halls as if they were simply playing, their forms barely distinct against the decaying backdrop. I recorded their movements, noting each detail in a straightforward manner. One of the children even gave a small wave as we passed. Their behavior was surprisingly normal, not aggressive or fearful. The images were clear: small figures in simple clothing, moving with an ease that belied the building's grim surroundings. The ghost children continued with their activity without hiding. They roamed the halls freely, their presence recorded as routine and unforced. Every action was documented without any attempt to add dramatic flair or poetic description. Although their behavior was benign, there was an undercurrent of unease in the facts. The recording showed regular play, yet the setting was anything but ordinary. It was a puzzling mix of friendly apparitions in a place meant for horror. Without warning, a figure appeared at the end of a long, poorly lit corridor. A disheveled man in a worn teacher's uniform stepped into view. His arrival was abrupt and changed the entire atmosphere in an instant. There was no build-up, just the cold, hard appearance of someone who did not belong. The moment he showed up, the ghost children scattered without hesitation. Their playful presence dissolved into silence, replaced by a feeling of oppressive tension. I made sure to capture every moment as this figure took center stage. David was alone in the classroom when the man moved in. In a single brutal motion, he reached out and attacked. The attack was crude, direct, and it left us with the undeniable truth that our investigation had turned deadly. I'm going to be honest. In that moment, we didn't care about our friend. We just got the urge to run as fast as we could. The ghost teacher's focus quickly shifted to me. I ran from the scene with nothing but raw instinct guiding me through the maze of corridors. Every step was measured against the threat that pursued me relentlessly. The building's layout offered little chance for a smooth escape. I sprinted through narrow hallways, I ran as fast as I could, thinking I might have lost the entity. Suddenly, something pushed me into the wall. He was right in front of me. The grip on my neck tightened, and my vision blurred. My feet dangled above the floor as the ghostly teacher held me effortlessly. His face, twisted in an expression of pure malice, was inches from mine. I could see every grotesque detail. His sunken eyes, the decayed skin, the way his lips moved as if whispering something inaudible. My hands clawed at his grip, but it was like trying to break free from solid iron. My body weakened, my lungs burned, and just as the darkness threatened to swallow me, something changed. A chorus of high-pitched laughter echoed through the halls, followed by small, frantic whispers. Suddenly, tiny hands lashed onto me from all directions. The ghostly children clung to my arms, my legs, even my shoulders. Their little fingers pried at the teacher's grip, their whispers turning into panicked shouts. The teacher roared, a sound that was neither human nor entirely in this world. He released me with a violent jerk, and I collapsed onto the cold, dust-covered floor, gasping for air. But the children didn't stop. They swarmed the ghostly figure, pulling at his limbs, climbing over him, their movements erratic and desperate. He tried to shake them off, but they held on with unnatural strength. Their whispers grew louder, overlapping an endless tide of voices speaking in a language I didn't understand. As I stumbled to my feet, I saw the teacher's form flickering like a broken film. His rage had turned into something else. Fear. He lashed out at the children, but they didn't falter. One of them, the same little girl who had waved at us earlier, turned to look at me. Her eyes, hollow and unreadable, locked onto mine for a brief second before she turned back to the teacher. And then, all at once, they were gone. The teacher, the children, the eerie voices, they disappeared as if they had never been there. The hallway was silent again, except for my own ragged breathing. But I knew better than to believe I was safe. I didn't stop to question what had happened. My instincts screamed at me to move, to get out before anything else appeared. I ran, my legs shaking, every corner of the school now feeling like a trap waiting to spring. When I reached the entrance, my heart sank. The door was shut. No, not just shut, sealed, as if it had never been an entrance at all. Panic surged through me, but I forced myself to think. There had to be another way. My eyes darted around until they landed on a shattered window at the end of the hall. Without hesitation, I ran for it. Glass sliced into my skin as I crashed through, hitting the ground outside with a painful thud. I didn't stop. I scrambled to my feet and kept running, never once looking back. I never saw my friends again. None of them made it out. Their names were never recorded. Their existence seemed to vanish along with them. No one believed my story, and eventually, I stopped telling it. Every piece of evidence we collected was lost, as if the school itself had erased all traces of our investigation. 5 years have passed since that day, but I still hear echoes of that night. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I feel small hands on my arms, tugging at me, whispering in voices that don't belong to this world. And I know, whatever happened that night, the school still remembers, and is waiting.
Delivering pizzas isn't the best job in the world. The routine is always the same. Pick up the order, drive to the address, get paid, and return to the pizzeria. But some customers stick in your mind, and not for good reasons. There was one house in particular that ordered frequently, always the same names: Henry and his wife, Martha. Most of the time, it was Martha who received the pizza. She greeted me with an exaggerated smile, lips painted a bright red, eyes wide as if surprised to see me every time. She tipped well, so I didn't mind. When Henry answered, he was polite but more reserved. A well-mannered, generous couple, I thought, nothing out of the ordinary. But over time, something about them started to bother me. At first, I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was the way Martha always made sure I was the one delivering the pizza, or how sometimes she took a little too long to open the door, like she was fixing herself up before answering. I didn't overthink it. She was just a peculiar customer. Until one night, everything changed. It was a Friday. The guys at the shop told me Martha had specifically asked for me to deliver their order. Nothing new. When I arrived, she answered the door with the same enthusiastic expression. But this time, she did something different. Come inside. Henry's in the bathroom. I'll be there in a second. I had never been inside before. I hesitated, but the house looked normal, clean, well lit. Nothing seemed off, so I stepped in. As soon as I crossed the threshold, I heard the unmistakable sound of a lock sliding shut. I turned around and saw Martha standing by the door, her smile different. It wasn't her usual one. This one was tense, lips pressed tightly together. Before I could say anything, she lunged at me. I didn't even have time to react. Her cold hands gripped my face as she pressed her lips toward mine. I shoved her back. She stumbled, breathing hard, eyes red and glassy. What the hell are you doing? She was married, and I wasn't interested, and Henry could come out at any moment, but she didn't seem to care. Her expression shifted in an instant. The desperation vanished, replaced by something else. Rage. She started sobbing, covering her face. I tried to calm her down, telling her it was okay, that we should just forget about it. But the way she cried, it was theatrical, exaggerated, unnatural. And then, suddenly, she stopped. She looked at me, deadening eyes. Henry, he's coming. He's going to be furious. Run! I didn't hear anything, but something about the way she said it made my body tense up. I turned around, expecting to see him. There was no one behind me. The house was silent. I turned back to her and froze. Martha was no longer on the floor. She stood up, but something about her was different. Her fingers pulled at her hair, and in one swift motion, she yanked the wig off. Beneath it, her scalp was bare, pale. Then, she wiped a hand down her face, smearing the makeup, revealing rougher, more masculine features. Her facial structure remained the same, but now, somehow, it was completely different. The voice that came out of her mouth wasn't Martha's. How dare you? My stomach lurched. My mind couldn't process it. I stepped back, but it was too late. Henry, Martha, whoever the hell this was, grabbed me by the throat with terrifying strength. I clawed at his grip, gasping for air. His fingers dug into my skin, tightening. My vision blurred at the edges. I tried kicking, thrashing, anything to break free, but his grip didn't loosen. His eyes, once wide with fake kindness, were now filled with something else. Hatred. My lungs burned, my vision darkened. Henry's breath was hot and ragged against my face. He wasn't speaking, wasn't explaining. He was just choking the life out of me. With the last bit of strength I had left, I managed to drive my knee into his stomach. He grunted, grip loosening just enough for me to twist free. I fell to the ground, gasping for air, my throat aching. He stepped forward, towering over me. His lips curled back, revealing clenched teeth. His voice was deeper now, filled with venom. You think you can just reject her? You think you can just leave after hurting my wife? I scrambled to my feet and bolted down the hallway. My mind raced. Where was the exit? The front door was locked. I turned sharply and ran into the kitchen. I needed a weapon. Anything. My hands closed around a knife. Henry appeared in the doorway, breathing heavily. His expression twisted with rage. He lunged at me. I swung the knife and buried it in his shoulder. He didn't scream. He just groaned, his body shuddering. But he didn't stop. He gripped the handle and pulled it out, blood dripping down his arm. I backed away as he took slow steps forward, his breathing uneven, eyes wild. I didn't wait to see what he'd do next. I shoved past him and sprinted toward the back door, yanking it open and stumbling outside. I ran to my car, heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. My hands shook as I fumbled for my keys, breath hitching with every second lost. I glanced at the house. Henry stood in the doorway, blood dripping from his shoulder, his eyes locked onto mine. He didn't run. He didn't scream. He just watched. The engine roared to life, and I slammed my foot on the gas, tires screeching as I sped away. My hands were trembling. My throat burned. I kept looking in the rearview mirror, expecting him to chase me. But he never did. I went straight to the police. At first, they didn't believe me. Then, when they searched the house, they found it. Wigs, costumes, makeup kits. Henry and Martha never existed as separate people. They were the same. They arrested Henry, or whatever his real name was. He never resisted. He never said a word. He just stared at me as they shoved him into the squad car. I don't deliver pizzas anymore. I got a different job. But sometimes, when I drive at night, I see faces in the crowd that look just like his. It's not possible. I know that. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see that stretched out grin, the red lips, the wide and blinking eyes, coming after me.
It was past midnight, and the road stretched endlessly ahead, a dark ribbon cutting through the emptiness. My wife Rachel and our two kids were fast asleep in the back of our SUV. The long drive had drained them, and I was starting to feel the exhaustion creep in too. That's when I spotted the gas station up ahead. I pulled in and killed the engine. The neon sign buzzed weakly, casting a sickly light over the cracked pavement. Rachel stirred slightly as I unbuckled my seat. I'll get you some drinks. You guys stay here and rest. Sure, I can come with you. Don't worry, I won't take long. She sighed, eyes half closed, and nodded. I stepped out, stretching my stiff legs before heading toward the gas station doors. The inside of the store was dimly lit, with shelves half stocked and a faint smell of something stale in the air. The cashier stood behind the counter, a thin man with wide, unblinking eyes. His smile was stretched across his face like it had been painted on, but his hands trembled where they rested on the counter. Welcome. Late night drive, huh? Need something cold? Something refreshing? His voice was cheerful, but there was something off. His enthusiasm felt forced, his body language tense. I nodded, brushing off the weird vibe, and walked toward the refrigerated section. The sound of humming filled the silence. It was coming from him, a soft, tuneless melody barely audible over the hum of the refrigerators. I focused on the drinks, deciding between cola and something fruit-filled. Then, without warning, he was right in front of me. This one's the best. People always get this one. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. He had moved without a sound. Way too close. His grin had faded, his breath shallow and quick. Thanks. I think I'll check with my wife. I turned quickly, heading for the door. Something in me screamed that I needed to leave, but when I reached for the handle, it wouldn't budge. Locked. I turned around. The cashier stood at the far end of the store, watching. His grin never changed, but now there was something in his hand. A knife. And behind him, from under a door, a slow trickle of blood seeped onto the tiles. Hey, this is awkward, right? Seems like I did an oopsie.
The kind of connection I'm looking for is a gentle, timeless.
Paying with Cash App card feels pro because you have rounders turned on.
Give me 17 cents on Bitcoin.
And for a moment, my body froze. The words hung in the air, unnatural and mocking. The blood kept spreading from under the door, pooling into a thick puddle. My mind screamed at me to move, but my legs felt heavy, almost like they refused to obey. Then he moved. I bolted, knocking over a display rack as I ran. Boxes of candy scattered across the floor, rolling under shelves. His laugh echoed through the street, light and almost childlike. He wasn't rushing. He was enjoying this. I could hear his shoes crunching over the fallen debris as he walked slowly and deliberate. I grabbed a six-pack of soda cans and hurled them in his direction. One hit his shoulder with a dull thud, but he barely reacted. Instead, he grinned, wider, tilting his head like I had just done something amusing. He wiped at the blood on his cheek, licking his fingers absently as he took another step forward. I backed up, my heel slamming against the other aisle. My chest heaved as I struggled to breathe. There was nowhere left to go. I spotted a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall near the counter. If I could reach it, he lunged. I dove to the side, barely avoiding the downward swing of his knife. It sliced through the air where my neck had been just seconds ago. I hit the floor hard, pain jolting up my arm as I scrambled away. I spotted a metal stand near the register, some kind of advertisement display. I yanked it up and swung it wildly as he came at me again. The impact landed square in his ribs, sending him stumbling back a few steps. But his laughter never stopped. I turned and sprinted toward the front of the store. The exit was right there. If I could just... The windows. I grabbed a can from a shelf and threw it as hard as I could. It hit the glass with a dull thud and bounced off, landing uselessly on the ground. Bulletproof. His laughter rang out behind me, his breathing fast and excited. I knew you'd try that. They all do. I turned again, but he was already moving. His body slammed into mine, sending us both crashing to the floor. The impact knocked the air from my lungs, and before I could react, he was on top of me, pressing the knife toward my throat. I pushed back with all my strength, arms trembling. But he was stronger. His grin was inches from my face, eyes gleaming with pure sadistic joy. You're fun. He pressed down harder. My arms burned with effort, my muscles screaming as I fought against him. The blade inched closer, so close I could see my own reflection in the metal. Desperation surged through me. I twisted my body, shifting my weight enough to throw him off balance. The knife grazed my shoulder as I bucked upward, knocking him away. He hit the floor with a grunt, but he was already pushing himself up. I crawled backward, my hands scrambling over the cold tile until they found something solid. A glass bottle. Without thinking, I swung it at his head. It shattered on impact, sending shards flying. He let out a choked gasp, stumbling back, clutching his bleeding face. His momentary distraction was all I needed. I forced myself up and grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a metal cash register. With every ounce of strength left in my body, I brought it down on his head. His body hit the ground hard. His limbs twitched for a moment before going still. Blood poured beneath him. My breath came in ragged gasps as I stood there, shaking. I wasn't sure if he was dead, but I wasn't going to find out. I stood there panting, waiting for him to move. He didn't. Blood trickled from his mouth. His neck was twisted at an unnatural angle. My hands shook as I reached into his pocket. The keys. I yanked them free and staggered towards the door. My hands fumbled with the lock, breath shallow and ragged. A sound behind me. A gurgle. A hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. His eyes were wide open, filled with something beyond pain.
Something that defied reason, something that should have never happened. It was a long haul, like always. The road stretched endlessly ahead, almost deserted except for the occasional car in the distance.
Make me get up.
My only company was the hum of the engine and the faint glow of the dashboard lights.
It's
The
nighttime,
monotonous drive
bitch.
started to wear me down. I blinked a few times, trying to shake off the drowsiness, but my eyelids felt heavier by the second. I turned on the radio hoping for some distraction, but it barely helped. Fatigue was creeping up on me. Just a couple more hours to go, yet in my exhausted state, it felt like eternity. Then I saw it in the rearview mirror. An old man standing inside the trailer. He had no face, just smooth, featureless skin where his eyes, mouth, and nose should have been. He stood perfectly still, staring at me through the ventilation slit near the top of the cargo hold.
I'm up.
My hand slipped from the wheel
What do you
for a
need?
split second. The truck swerved violently, its tires screeching against the asphalt. I slammed on the brakes, my body lurching forward as the truck skidded to a halt. The weight of the trailer pushed against me, nearly tipping the whole rig over. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. I sat there, gripping the wheel, breathing hard. I glanced back at the slit. It was empty. I unbuckled my seatbelt and jumped out of the cab, grabbing a metal rod from under the seat. If someone had somehow snuck into my cargo hold, I was going to deal with them. I made my way to the back of the trailer, every step deliberate, my grip tightening around the rod. My truck had been locked. There was no way anyone should have been inside.
Why y'all
I placed
threatening
my
my
hand on the
doors?
ropes and hesitated. My breath was loud in my ears. My fingers felt stiff around the rod. I forced
I
myself
don't care
to
if I
release
die or
my
anything.
hands.
You could
With
come
motion,
and
I
murder
unlatched
me.
the doors and swung them open. The truck's interior was bathed in the dim glow of my taillights. Stacks of crates and pallets secured with thick straps lined
I'm
the
going back to
walls.
bed.
The space was undisturbed. There was no sign of anyone inside. I climbed up, stepping carefully between the stacks. The air felt stale, heavy with the scent of wood and metal. The
Nope,
truck
we're good.
was empty, but I wasn't convinced. My skin prickled with unease. I turned toward the ventilation slit, the same one where I had seen that impossible figure. I walked closer, step by step, until I was right in front of it. The opening was barely wide enough for a hand to fit through, let alone a whole person. I leaned in and peered through. The old man was in the driver's seat. My seat. Before I could even process what I was seeing, the engine roared to life. The truck jerked forward. The trailer doors slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang. The whole vehicle shot forward, and I was thrown off my feet, crashing into the crates. The truck was moving fast, too fast. I scrambled to my hands and knees, trying to get a sense of my surroundings, but the sudden acceleration sent me sprawling again. My back slammed against a wooden crate. The trailer rattled with every bump in the road, the sound of shifting cargo echoing around me. I grabbed onto a strap, pulling myself up as best I could. My legs were unsteady, my hands shaking as I tried to maintain my balance. The floor vibrated beneath me, the motion making my stomach twist. I had no idea where the truck was headed. I could only feel the speed, the violent swerves as it veered off course. I lunged toward the doors and pounded on them. They didn't budge. I tried the latch, but it was stuck as if something on the outside was holding it shut. My breath came in ragged gasps. This wasn't possible. None of this was possible. A sudden jolt sent me flying backward. More crates toppled, crashing to the floor. The truck was swerving wildly now, like something, or someone, was deliberately trying to throw me around. I needed to get out. I needed to stop this. Desperate, I crawled toward the ventilation slit again, hoping to see where we were going. I pressed my face against the opening and squinted into the darkness. The road was gone. We were no longer on the highway. The truck was speeding through an unmarked path, walking beside me. I forced my aching body to move, crawling as fast as I could. My breath came in short, panic bursts. My limbs were weak, but survival pushed me forward. The old man didn't hurry. He simply walked, his featureless face turned toward me as if watching, waiting. Then a blinding white light appeared in the distance. It rushed toward me, growing larger, engulfing everything in its path. I barely had time to react before it consumed my vision. Everything went dark. I woke up on the side of the road, my head
Also, I'm not being
A man
lazy.
and a woman were crouched beside me, their
It is
faces filled with
genuinely
concern.
nighttime here.
Are you okay? I groaned, pushing myself up. My truck was wrecked in the ditch nearby, but the old man, he was gone. Later, I learned about the legend. An old man hit by a truck on this highway decades
Thanks,
ago.
Silco.
His spirit now haunts drivers who are unlucky enough to cross this path. I never drove that route again, and I never drove that night.
I was just another high school kid.
I
trying
hope
to
you
make
have a
it
good
today.
night too.
My name's Dan.
Or a good day, or a good
16.
afternoon.
Nothing special. I wasn't popular, but I wasn't a loner either. Just one of those kids who drift through school unnoticed.
Yeah, go to bed.
That afternoon, I was heading home after detention. Some idiot had thrown a paper ball in towns, and the floor was
No
this
problem.
disgusting. And the floor was
No
this
problem.
disgusting brown carpet that felt damp under my sneaker. Disgusting brown carpet that felt damp under my sneaker. I turned to leave.